Be a good one because we've got Trump has got a big win with JD Vance's debate against Tim Walz. Also, we have Mike Johnson, who's revealed new details about the border crossings, the way the government manipulated the system to allow for 11 plus million illegals to cross over, and now Mike Johnson is working to reverse that. On top of that, there's a ton of the policies that literally have backfired within the debate stage. Walz literally just fell flat on his face. A lot of the polls are revealing that JD Vance won the debate. Trump is gaining more than ever. There's also now calls that a lot of people are saying that maybe Walz should be replaced. I know it's crazy, but the blatant lying, the admission on the debate stage of him being misspeaking all the time and not being able to truly stand by the facts has put him in a tight spot. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so I can serve you every day with the top news. And thank you to all of our new members of the channel. Jose Umana, thank you so much for joining the family. Everybody show Jose some love in the chat. Thank you to all of our members like Mr. Tracy J. Norby, Sandra, Deanna Scott. We appreciate y'all so much, and thank you to everybody that blesses this channel with the super chat. We are truly grateful, and we want to serve you. We're doing great things with this channel, and we just want to bring you the top news. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, because this is crazy.
Just about the moderators and the job CBS did. Watch this clip, if you missed last night, where they said they weren't going to fact check, but then they fact checked.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand.
Wow.
That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years.
Thank you,
the
Senator.
facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's a lie, not the
has
app.
not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
We're not going to cut your mic.
What a condescending comment
Right,
at the end.
It's just
Thank you for
shameless.
explaining the laws to us.
Their bias, their disdain for any Republican candidate is just on open display. Everybody can see that. I mean, it was 3 against 1. But JD still
I
won.
wanted to hear his answer, though.
Right.
But, the issue does bother me. It's very important. You give special status to Haitians, Cubans, Venezuelans because their country's going to hell. We can't, doesn't mean we have to absorb everybody. Should we not have a say in this?
Exactly. The immigration policy is basically non-existent. They open the border, they're allowing everyone in, they put out the welcome mat. And the catastrophe that this has been to our country in every metric of public policy, with the fentanyl poisonings of being the leading cause of death for migrants age 18 to 49, the trafficking, the fact that JD pointed out so well, they have lost all of these children who came across the border.
Over 20,000.
Yeah.
I mean, if a Republican administration had done that, it's all you would see
it'd be
every day.
over.
But they try to bury it. JD was so good last night because he brought answers, solutions. He talked about policies. He showed his depth. And he came across as just being very reasonable and likable. I just thought he was at his best. He did a great job last
What do you think about this port strike? We've been talking about this. It's day 2 now. It's going to affect all families across the country if we don't resolve this soon.
Yeah.
What should Biden and Kamala Harris be doing to resolve it?
Well, they need to ensure that these parties stay at the table, negotiate in good faith, and get to the end of this thing. They have had this sort of hands-off approach. And that weakness is going to exacerbate the problem. You know, Donald Trump's pointed out in the last couple of days, this is a direct result, one more direct result of Bidenomics, of the inflation. I mean, these, dock workers, port workers feel like they can't feed their families. Everybody in America feels that right now.
So Gina Raimondo says,
Because that's huge. If you're like at the point now where things have gotten so expensive, you can't feed your family, then you obviously want more money, right? And not that they shouldn't get a raise, but they're literally asking for a 50% raise. Meaning, I make $500, now I want to make $750. Like, that is a lot. But why? Because they can't feed their families.
Not really following it. And she's Commerce Secretary. And the Secretary of Transportation is drilling Governor Walz on what to expect in a debate.
Look, this administration and all the cabinet officials have failed in every measure, and everybody can see that. This election is about a contrast. The answers, the solutions, the ideas that JD put forward, and the fact that Walz could not stand there and answer this simple question. If Kamala Harris has all these great ideas, if you guys could do all this, why hasn't she done it for the last 4 years? They cannot answer that.
Well, and Joe Biden, we've heard him a million times. He's the world's most pro-union president in the history of the republic. He wanted big labor to have a lot of power. They've got a lot of power now. Unfortunately for his vice president, our vice president, Kamala Harris, this comes at a politically precarious time. The longer this goes, the worse for her when stuff starts costing more or drying up.
Yes, and the latest numbers are very encouraging for our side because the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris have the lowest level of support from union workers in the history of polling. In 2020, Joe Biden was up by 19 points among union members. She's up by 9, and it's a perilous position she's in. So we'll see how this resolves, but it's doing real damage to the economy, to people. It's going to make costs go up for all these hardworking families who are already
Mr. Speaker,
struggling.
do you think you should be doing something to get these men and women back to work? This is national security, isn't it?
Well, it is.
This
and,
is
the
huge.
Taft-Hartley Act is part of the law. The president has the ability to evoke that. Congress doesn't have much say in these things, but we're going to continue to hammer the point that they've got to get back to work. This is a perilous time for the country. We're still reeling on the heels of Hurricane Helene and all the damage that's been done. Israel is under fire by Iran. There's just chaos everywhere you look, and this is emblematic of the Biden-Harris administration and what they've done to the country.
Yeah, we're approaching the one-year anniversary of what happened on October 7th in Israel. Israel's vowing...
And right now, this is the thing. Just like this was Janelle Murphy said, Biden-Harris changing laws without Congress approval. They 100% allowed this. They made it so that these illegals could use this application that you download on your phone, get amnesty, and through the application, asylum, and then come into the country. And this wasn't approved by Congress. This didn't get a vote by Republicans or Democrats. This was by what? By these departments that have been created that have no accountability to anybody, yet they're controlling and dictating a lot of what happens to Americans. Check this out.
Army. All right, fellas, let's go. Folks, Trump was right. There is no more debates. They clearly now are debating the mainstream media. They're debating academia, the entertainment community, the sports community, and also the two hapless buffoons who were on stage, Harris and Kamala. Now, during their separate debates. Now, it was funny because we came in this morning. Justin was like, you know what? JD won, but I'm not sure Walz did that terrible. And Michael said it best. Michael just nailed it. He did. What did you say, Michael? Michael's like, listen, man, I had to work last night. I only got to see it in clips, which, by the way, is how 99.999% of sentient beings in the cosmos are going to see this thing. And Michael's like, no way, dude. Kicked last night. I said, you guys, did you do that on purpose? Did you set up are they like bunt? Was it a bunt? Or did they rehearse it? Like, let's impress Dan. Like this isn't that kind of work environment. Like maybe we'll get like a raise if I don't know what they did. Did they coordinate this or something? Because I mean, that's not how I roll at all. These guys, they come in and they say exactly, the whole world saw the debate that way. Folks, last night, I want you to remember sound bites and snapshots. Last night's debate was targeted at maybe, and I'm serious here, listen to me, maybe 0.5% of voters out there. I'm serious. The overwhelming majority of people have already made up their minds. There is, however, a small sliver of people who, 1, will watch a VP debate, who 2 are undecided, and who 3 came in there with some significant pre-existing obstacles to voting Trump. It is small. Let's not kid ourselves. Last night was absolute destruction, but it was targeted at maybe thousands of people in a few swing states. JD had a plan. The left-wing communist media absolutely viciously attacked this United States Marine, this lawyer, this United States Senator.
100%.
This guy who proudly grew up and wrote a story about it called Hillbilly Elegy, grew up poor, drug addiction in his family, raised by his grandmother. They viciously attacked him as weird, which, coming from the left and wants to cut your kid's balls off, it was kind of a strange attack because no one on planet Earth has ever called J.D. Vance weird. Maybe a lot of things they've never called him weird.
No.
J.D. had one job last night. J.D.'s job was not to make Tim Walz look stupid. Tim Walz did that all on his own, trust me. That was not his job. It was not to go on attack against Walz. That was not his job. It may feel good, but that's only for us MAGA folks. We don't need it. We're already voting for him. Suburban moms, the 0.15% of the voters out there who were unconvinced, came away last night and said, I could be president tomorrow. I promise
100%.
you, none of them said that about Tampon Tim. Again, Trump was right. Here is the first soundbite of the night showing you why serious American voters practically all hate the media. This is why the debates are over. And I'm telling you now, tell me in the chat if you disagree. Yes, I'm right. No, I'm wrong. From now on, from this point on, in every presidential election cycle moving forward, there should be no more debates on hack left-wing media outlets. None. You want to do a debate? Here's what we do. You get one left-winger like a Rachel Maddow, and then you get like a Mark Levin. They're opinion hosts anyway. Maddow gets a question, Levin gets a question, and they question the opposite guy. That's the only way we're doing it from now on. Here's JD last night after CBS said, we're not going to try to fact check. Try to fact check JD, who is smarter than the two morons running the debate and absolutely owns them so much to the point they have to shut the microphone off to stop him from speaking. How do you think this looked to the 0.5% of people who are impressionable? You think this made the media look good? Check this out.
Just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open
just
border
pushing
law.
a button on an app.
That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card, and waiting for 10 years.
I know people that have spent 5-10 years trying to get legal status, trying to get into this country and be a legal citizen, and yet people are now coming in with just pushing a button on an app. That's it. That's how they wanted it to be for these new illegals so that they can make them into voters.
Thank you, Senator.
Facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
we want to
CBP
have
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Folks, how do you think that looked? Again, this is
looked
not
bad.
targeted at Justin. He made up his mind 8 years ago. No, Michael, Evita, me, or anyone. We don't vote Democrat like that. We're good. You've got to view it through the objective lens of snapshots and sound bites and the 0.5% who, frankly, don't know what you know about politics. It's not their fault. They're busy working for a living. Look, Bocino, wow, 99.7%. Thank you, Bocino, on the case. How do you think that looked? Where JD accurately states that's all made up. That CBP One app they're using to fly people into the country, you can call it legal all you want. It is illegally legal. They're just making people, they're coming in going, yeah, just come in illegally by the app and we'll say it's legal. Just like Obama, who said, hey, we can't do this DAPA thing. And, and then he said, well, I have a pen and a phone. JD was right. This is why we're not doing any more debates. So I'm going to go back and forth. So that's a soundbite, a longer one. It was great for JD, but I honestly don't think it was the best one. I'm going to show you. It was great. He had so many good ones I had to pick, but I'm trying to think early for do the homework here about what's going to last and stick here. What's the Stockdale moment? What's the, that Dan Quayle moment? You're no Jack.
Look, I have to say this because I had a lot of people that I talked with, and a lot of people said they were those. J.D. Vance and Tim Walz were actually very kind to each other. They were very cordial. They weren't like trying to basically cut each other or anything like that. There wasn't the animosity that you see kind of with Trump and with Harris because, again, too, they're the VPs. They're not the actual running presidential candidates. But at the same time, too, what you did see was that J.D. Vance, even though he's walking into the lion's den, being on this news network that doesn't like Republicans or what they stand for, but yet still stood and held his own. That's what I love.
Kennedy when he got nailed by, was it Benson? I'm trying to, and I think I've got it. But I want to show you the snapshots too. Again, who won the snapshots war? Michael came in this morning. He's like, I only saw it on highlights, and I thought the guy got smoked, Tim Walz. Tampon Tim got crushed, folks. If you just met him last night, tell me you didn't see Elmer Fudd. You see a wabbit? Look at this cat. Look at his picture. Do you have that picture, Fred? Here it is. Tell me, this is the snapshot the entire night.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Does this guy look like president? The president of the United States? Folks,
no.
I knew a guy growing up. He's a hardworking guy. He used to sell some bread hot dogs in New York to put himself from law school. He looked more presidential. His name was Mike. He was a nice guy. Who is this guy? You see a wabbit? What the hell is... Look at this guy. This is the ticket. Thank you. Justin just did that. You got Kamala Harris looking like the teacher nobody could stand from third grade.
That's
and
true.
You got Tim Walz looking perpetually confused. Again, I'm not telling you
And I'll say this. So you got the teacher that you don't like, and then you got just confused and out there, don't know where he's at. With Trump, I think you have that coach, the football coach who's always, pumping up, but he's tough. And then with J.D. Vance, you have this, scholarly, heads the president's club, That's just my thoughts.
Every snapshot from Trump and Vance was epic that they had, they would look like Zeus with lightning bolts. I'm just telling you, in the snapshot wars, they keep losing. This guy is a goofball. Everybody saw he was nervous at the beginning of the debate, and he kept making these weird faces. And he does the jazz hands, gesticulations thing from Bring It On. It's remember jazz hands? They sell jazz hands? Yes, I have daughters. I've seen the movie many times. This is the weirdest thing. This guy's the weird one. Nobody came away last night going, man, that Tim Walz, I could see him negotiating with the Taliban. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees that. It was a mess. If you understand snapshots and sound bites, brothers and sisters, you are 100% with me. The guy is a numbnuts. I'm sorry. And I'm telling you that objectively. I don't know him. It's not personal. I'm just telling you, he came off nervous. I'll give you just one quick example, too. Anybody out there, radio host, local radio station, you have a podcast? I'm sure there's someone. If you are, put your name in the chat. I'll take a look. You know what I'm talking about. Tell me I'm wrong. When you are nervous on the radio, on a TV show, or on a podcast, when you're nervous, the audience can sense it. I don't want to waste a lot of time, but I'll tell you, the only time I was ever nervous on TV, only time, was the first time I filled in for Hannity on his Fox show. I had never done a show by myself, ever. And I'm walking in, it's right before Christmas, and I'm in Manhattan, I'm at Fox, and I'm walking in, I see this big Fox building, and it says outside Fox News. This is 7 years ago, 6 years ago. It's a long time ago. And I'm walking in, for the first time it hits me, you're gonna be live on the air in front of 3 million people. You F this thing up, it's on you. And it was the only time, if you go back and look, you'll see I was nervous. When you're nervous, people can feel it.
Yeah.
Sorry about the story, but Walz was nervous, and everybody gets nervous with him. And nobody wants to feel nervous about a guy who's a heartbeat away from the presidency. Listen to your guy.
Prophetic Now with the super chat. Thank you so much. He said, how do we win if illegals are flooding the swing states register to vote? Prophetic Now, I'm 100% aligned with you on that because that's in the back of my mind. When you bring over millions of illegals that you know that they're going to vote Democrat, and those states are only won by a few thousand votes, that's where it doesn't look good. But again, too, Lord willing, it goes in the right direction. Everybody show Prophetic Now some love in the chat.
I'm not going to steal you wrong, man. It was a disaster for Kamala Harris last night, who now must clearly regret picking Tampon Tim. Clearly. She had the opportunity to pick a Pennsylvania very popular governor in Josh Shapiro, who's bizarrely got a high approval rating for being a diehard liberal. And she picks this loser. Folks, this was really, really bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove it to you again. My arch nemesis, Geraldo, and others. These are all liberals. He starts this clip out. Here's about a minute of the media reaction before we get back to the clips, because I want to set the battlefield. You think I'm crazy? Do you understand how bad the left-wingers, 30 days prior to a campaign in the media, just wanted to say Tim Walz did good enough, and don't hurt the election? They couldn't even do that. That's how bad of a performance it was last night. Listen to these lefties tell you, hey, man, not so great. Imagine how bad it had to be for them to say this. Check this out.
There's no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate.
Does Governor Walz have a problem with the truth? No.
They were talking, at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting.
But at the beginning, the two issues driving the campaign right now are Harris has a big deficit on the economy, Harris has a big deficit on immigration, and Republicans were happy tonight, and Democrats a little bit nervous that on those two issues, Vance carried it.
J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, stop it, stop. Are you effing kidding me? And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just, this is a debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference.
Nicole?
I'm telling you this, it gets so bad to the point where people, they're going to do trust me, with this huge just loss of the debate, you're going to see a huge campaign swing against who? It's going to be against J.D. Vance and all the things that he said in the past, because they're going to try to change what people just saw on TV, what they saw through streams, that this guy's not so bad. J.D. Vance, he's not weird at all. The only weird one that you saw really was Walz on stage. And now the analysis and the polls are showing that Trump is winning big time. Check this out.
Less than 2 minutes last night discussing what Americans have consistently told us is one of their, if not the top issue right now, the economy.
That's right. He spent more time talking about a bunch of other issues, including housing, electability, climate change, and guns.
Michael Whatley is the Republican National Committee chair, joins us now with his reaction. Michael, I don't blame Walz. Wouldn't you have done the exact same thing if you had the unenviable task of, one, trying to defend Kamala's economic record over these past 4 years, but also your own record in far left Minnesota?
It's a tough place for him to be. J.D. Vance won that debate last night because he was able to talk about the economy. He was able to talk about the southern border and immigration, talk about where we are as a country in our standing in the world. You know what? This entire election comes down to a question. Are we going to be a strong country or a weak country coming out of this election? Under Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, we're going to be a strong country. We're going to have a strong southern border. We're going to have a strong economy. We're going to have a strong standing in the world. And I think J.D. Vance won that debate last night because he put all three of those issues on the table in a big way. I think the other big winner last night, Donald Trump. You know, there was absolutely nothing in this debate that changes the trajectory of him going on and winning this election cycle. Kamala Harris needed a knockout, and she did not get it.
Well, first of all, it's great to have you in studio. This is
Woodbury Hill
Studio
Studio
in New York City.
With the super chat. Thank you so much for that support. They said the debate was great last night. JD was amazing. I 100% agree. Everybody, show Woodbury Hill Studio some love in the chat.
in studio, and it's great for us. What was Donald Trump's initial reaction to J.D. Vance's debate performance? Also, fact-checking the moderators in real time was a key moment that a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, the president was very happy. You know, when I was texting with him last night about how great J.D. did and what a great night it was all around, he was very upbeat, very happy. You know, and that's really where we are as a campaign. You know, you look at where we are in the battleground states, you look at where we are on the issue polls. Last night was a big win, and it's not just that the Democrats have a messenger problem; they have a message problem.
Exactly.
Where they are on these issues, on the economy, on the border, and frankly, where we are in terms of our standing in the world, they're wrong on every one of those issues, and those are the issues that voters consistently say that they care about most.
One masterful stroke from J.D. Vance last night was on the issue of democracy, flipping it around, saying censorship really is the threat to democracy. Let's listen.
I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens, and it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than any.
Look at Walz's face whenever J.D. Vance is saying this. This tells you everything. Look at this. This is a face of, holy crap, he's right. Holy crap, I can't say nothing about that. Dang, I'm losing this debate. Why? Because we know Google, Facebook, Meta. When the CEO of Facebook comes out and says, yeah, we did censor. We were pressured by the Biden-Harris administration. This is the face that you get.
I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years.
Perfect answer, but literally as the debate is happening, the Trump campaign claims their ads were barred from YouTube during the entire debate. They write the following: debate is over. No Trump fundraising ads on YouTube have been live the entire debate. Why were they taken down? Why was this 1 hour before the VP debate? Losing out on...
Holy smokes. So the debate is over. No Trump fundraising ads on YouTube have been live the entire debate. That's messed up.
God. 6 figures for Team Trump. Donald Trump needs answers. What answer were you given, Michael, as to why this happened?
No answer yet. So we're going to wait and see what happens. This is just yet another example of big tech censorship.
That's bad.
When you talk about the threat to democracy, let's talk about trying to take Donald Trump off the ballot. Let's talk about taking him off the campaign trail by weaponizing the Department of Justice to go after him and his allies. Let's talk about pushing Joe Biden off the stage after he has gotten 13 million votes and won the primary, and replacing him with Kamala Harris, who never got a single vote in a primary, right? The threat to democracy always comes from the left. The rhetoric comes from the left. It's absolutely remarkable what Donald Trump does every single day is go out and talk directly to the American voters to try and get their votes. The threat to democracy always comes from the left.
Oh my gosh, I have 2 questions I've been dying to ask you, and we have 40 seconds left. Okay, I'm gonna ask them anyway. Do you think that we're gonna get the election results on the night of the election, one? And is there anything that the national media is missing when it comes to this election that you're seeing on the ground?
We're gonna know. We're gonna know that Donald Trump won this election because he's going to have commanding leads in all of these battleground states. I think we feel really good about where we are right now. The media is going to do everything they can to try and hide Kamala Harris. The fact is, she has been the vice president. This is her administration. She's the one that cast the tie-breaking votes on the budget that sent inflation through the roof, and she is the border czar who has let 15 million illegal immigrants come across the line.
Got it in. Michael Watley, thank you.
Let me tell you this. It's so bad. Walz and Harris are losing so bad that even CNN is coming after them. Check this out.
It's pretty clear Vance outclassed Walz tonight. I mean, I was watching this, and all I could think of was, man, Walz is so in over his head. I mean, can you imagine this guy sitting in the White House Situation Room with that facial expression that's like 50% sheer terror and 50% extreme bafflement? I mean, it was amazing, the split-screen difference between a competent Vance and a totally in over his head Walz. The answer on why he lied about his trips to China and the Tiananmen Square thing was probably the worst VP debate meltdown since Stockdale in '92. Who am I and why am I here? It was 2.5 minutes of absolute terrible. For Vance, night of redemption.
Yep,
All the
I
political
agree.
media has told us that Vance was a terrible pick and Walz was going to bring in all these voters. That charade is now over. Walz does not belong at this level of American politics. Vance does. Final verdict, Tim Walz wandered into the wrong bar tonight.
Wow, man, that is savage. He is not up to the level. And remember, Walz brought out that what? Trump was a part of Project 2025. Well, check this out. The fact-checking, that they are literally fact-checking them on Walz on this. Check this out.
Listen to something that Governor Walz said about the Conservative Heritage Foundation think tank's initiative known as Project 2025.
Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments.
This claim, which Governor Walz has made before, is false. Project 2025's 900-page policy document is online. You can read it. I've read it. Nothing in it proposes to make anyone register their pregnancy with the government. What Project 2025 does propose is that the federal government takes steps to make sure it is getting from every state detailed after the fact anonymous data on abortion and miscarriage. The federal government already gets this data from almost every state on a voluntary basis. Project 2025 wants to make it mandatory for all states, but there's no pregnancy registration involved in this data collection today. Project 2025 doesn't propose to change that. And in fact, Tim Walz's own state of Minnesota already posts detailed after the fact anonymous abortion and miscarriage data online on the state health department website. There is no pregnancy registration in Minnesota, of course. And I should also note that while the governor referred to their Project 2025, it is not an initiative of the Trump-Vance campaign itself.
Ooh, man, let me tell you what. I love it. I give credit where credit is due, and I just love how CNN just fact-checked the crap out of Walz on that debate stage on CNN. The truth is going to come out. Sometimes it's going to come out through an unlikely source, but I'm going to show you it because there's hope, guys. I'm telling you, there is hope of what's going on and where things are going to land at. Check this out.
What do you make of last night's debate?
Last night was a huge win for our team. I will tell you, the vibes are high at Trump headquarters here in West Palm Beach this morning. Senator Vance accomplished the mission and exceeded everyone's expectations. He outlined he and President Trump's positive vision to make this country wealthy, safe, and strong again, while effectively prosecuting the case against Kamala Harris and her failed policies over the past 4 years. Senator Vance highlighted his background growing up in a working-class family in the heartland of this country, paying his way through Yale Law School, serving in the United States Marine Corps, and then becoming a United States Senator. He has truly lived the American dream
100%.
and can relate to the struggles that work.
Mr. Tracy J. Norby with the super chat. Thank you so much. He said, Vance stomped tampon Tim. Let the red wave arrive and flow over 90% of the United States of America. Game over. Let's go. Everybody show Mr. Tracy some love in the chat.
Class families like his are facing every single day, and that reality of his life, his personality, who he is as a person really shined through on the debate stage last night. He unequivocally won last night's debate, and he proved why he is ready for prime time, why he and President Trump make the most dynamic presidential ticket in American history, and why Governor Walz and Kamala Harris are not ready to be the leaders of this country.
Yeah, it's widely opined that
there's no way I'm seeing Kamala Harris or Tim Walz standing up to Putin or any other world leader like Trump would. Let me know your thoughts.
Senator Vance was very well prepared for this debate and all of his answers, again, addressing the moderators, addressing his opponent in this moment. But again, watching the responses, obviously one of the big ones, former President Donald Trump, watching his response, he took to Truth Social to air his grievances about the moderators. And in the Post, he wrote this, quote, both young ladies have been extremely biased anchors.
100%.
Did you come away with that when you were watching this debate? And if so, what moments stood out to you?
Well, when they fact-checked Senator Vance and shut off his mic, I thought that was pretty alarming, especially since the rules they agreed to were not to fact-check the candidates on the stage, but they just could not help themselves because I think they were getting triggered by Senator Vance speaking the truth so powerfully and so eloquently, not only effectively tackling Governor Walz on that stage for his lies, but also pushing back against the mainstream media's lies on so many issues. It didn't matter, though. Again, Senator Vance did an incredible job of tackling those anchors' bias, of relaying the truth about the issues that matter, and speaking directly to voters at home.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had a few stumbles throughout the night, including when he talked about getting cordial with violent gunmen. Let's listen.
Oh, man, this was bad, y'all.
I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety.
Look, he just pulled a Biden, but I don't think Biden ever said anything as bad as that.
I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns.
So, Caroline, how do you think Walz's performance was received by the American public? At one point, he called himself a knucklehead, which was a little bit awkward.
Well, the school shooter's comment was incredibly odd. Presumably, he misspoke. I would hope so.
I would hope he meant victims, correct?
Yeah.
I have yet to hear him correct the record on that. He should, because if he is truly friends with school shooters, I think that disqualifies him from being vice president of the United States. But his whole answer on that issue, the Second Amendment, was terrible. You heard him at the end there saying sometimes it's just the guns. I'm sorry, what? People have to pull the trigger of the gun. Guns just don't go out there and kill people. People kill people, and that's the real heart of this issue, mental health, and Senator Vance effectively prosecuted that case last night.
Yeah, watching this between the two, obviously you saw civility. You saw bipartisanship come back in this moment, which was encouraging for a lot of Americans to watch in a time where, you know, politics has been very heated, as you well know, Caroline. Can you talk a little bit about that? Senator Vance showing civility, showing poise, Governor Walz doing the same, both men saying they agree with each other on certain things in this moment. Did you have a takeaway on that from that debate?
That's who Senator Vance is. He's a nice guy. He's just a good guy, someone you'd want to grab a beer with. He's a father, he's a husband, and he is a great person. I've gotten to know him on this campaign trail, and I can tell you that firsthand. And that really showed through on the debate stage last night. And I think Governor Walz is going to be voting for the Trump-Vance ticket because he shook his head in agreement with Senator Vance 5 separate times on different issues and points. So that was a little bit odd as well. Again, I think it shows Governor Walz was not prepared for prime time. He has dodged the media, much like Kamala Harris. Both of them have refused to do interviews, and it showed. But Senator Vance has done more than 100 interviews, many of them very hostile, and it clearly showed he was the more prepared candidate.
I'm telling you this.
Make of last night's debate?
This is how much they dodged the media. I want to show you something that Elon Musk actually put out there, because I'm telling you what, I think it's what everybody's thinking, but I just love it. He just said it. He said, this thing has got almost 28 million views. Trump Vance must win. I can't handle 4 years of seeing and hearing Kamala Walz. That would be cruel and unusual punishment. This guy is such a troll, but it's kind of the truth. At the same time, too, this is the facts. There was no questions about China's threat. There was no question about how Tim Walz, handled the violent George Floyd riots that burned the city for 3-4 days. There was no questions about Ukraine or Russia. There was no questions about the worker strike of more than 45,000 workers that it literally is going to halt the United States if nothing is done. But there was 6 questions about abortion. Now you tell me where the priorities lie and how they were trying to help out the Harris-Walz administration. Check this out.
Joining me now, New York Times bestselling author, KA Consulting president, and Fox News contributor, Kellyanne Conway. She's also a pollster and a former senior counselor to President Trump. Kellyanne, great to see you. I've been thinking about your reaction to last night. Please give us your assessment of the vice presidential debate and Morgan's reporting.
Sure. Well, it shows why President Trump picked J.D. Vance as his running mate, and it shows the magic and the measurement that happens after somebody submits himself to tough questions in over 100 interviews in the short time he's been the running mate. This is what you need to do. You need to parry with the hostile press under wing of Air Force Two or Trump Force plane. You need to submit yourself to interviews. And President Trump has often said J.D. Vance is unafraid to go into any lion's den of hostile media and shag those flies. You simply cannot show up the first time to do this on a debate stage, as Tim Walz did, hiding from the press and think that somehow you'll be able to stretch those muscles you haven't been using all along. I'm not much into performance and scoring and who won, who lost, because let's face it, this country is hurting. We have chaos and crisis, not in a tweet, not in an errant comment here and there by President Trump, but we have chaos and crisis everywhere we look. The grocery store, the gas pump, the southern border, in our communities and neighborhoods, and certainly abroad, Maria, where the hot spots are going on. So I feel it was, and look, they had downplayed Walz's ability to perform in this debate, but he should have been ready for a couple of the big questions. Like he had to, he lied about where he was. He just say, I made a mistake. That was 25 years or 35 years ago. I made a mistake, but I was there for a while, and it matters. Here's the thing I saw last night. Tim Walz made a mistake by evading the facts and evading the media. J.D. Vance showed Americans who also have evolved on Donald Trump how he did. He wasn't for Trump all along, and that's okay. He said Trump's performance in office has convinced him to be a Trump advocate and, in fact, his running mate. That's a guy ready on day one to be president.
No, I think you make great points. I think I would have liked to see a little more of the narrative that you are laying out. I would have liked to see a little more of an attack dog on from J.D. Vance to basically say, hey, the world is on fire. You've got 2 wars underway. Now you've got a strike. You've got inflation, which hit 40-year highs, and your girl was in charge these last 4 years. But I didn't hear enough on that about inflation, which is the #1 issue for people. But I agree, J.D. Came across calm and showed leadership.
Very presidential, very cordial, very kind, and even to the point of saying, like, dang, if something was to happen to Trump, God forbid, this dude could be president.
Was certainly, well, he did look somewhat afraid. You know, he was the underdog.
He was, and look, people don't need dad in plaid and folksiness. That's all adorable. Who's more accessible? Who do you want to have a beer with? We stopped asking those questions in our polling probably decades ago. Because that's not what's at stake here, everybody. You need somebody who's fit, who's steady, ready, can be commander-in-chief, can be the steward of our domestic economy, all of which is incredibly important. These are the tests. You know, Maria, it's like the word electability. We heard that word ad infinitum for decades. Who's electable? Who he can win, he can't win. We heard about Republican candidates. We heard about Donald Trump. And then he vanquished 17 Republicans in the primaries in 2016 and beat the queen bee herself, Hillary Clinton, who among an electorate that was plus female voters. We have been a majority of the voters. We decide the president since 1964. This is our 15th or 16th consecutive presidential race. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because the pundits and the political class ask who can win. Voters ask who can lead. And that's what they're going to see from last night. They're not going to ask who won the debate.
That's a good point.
They're going to say who showed me that they are steady and ready, who gave me confidence in their competence, and who's listening to me. I also think that J.D. did a smart thing. Question 1, unsurprisingly, was about Iran. But he said, let me introduce myself to America. He took 45 seconds to do that. For those who don't remember what he said or never saw what he said at the RNC, who have only heard an errant comment here and there, and he basically challenged his country to do something. Don't measure me in full based on a thing I said here, a thing I said there. Measure me on what you see here. Am I ready to support the Trump agenda? And I believe he is. And you talked about attack dogs. We have Donald Trump for that. Mike Pence and Donald Trump had a very good relationship and a great presidency and vice presidency for 3 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks. It worked very well.
Points. Yeah, very
different
good
styles.
Points. true on all of the above. So do you think last night's debate moved the needle on anything? It sounds like what you're saying is that you do think that people saw J.D. Vance for who he is. They saw leadership. They saw calm, and that did move the needle. But let's look at these polls because they do show an expanding race in key swing states for President Trump. A new Quinnipiac poll finds that in Georgia, Trump has a 6-point lead over Kamala Harris, 50% to 44%. In North
And remember what they always say, that there is a silent minority that votes for Trump. They said it's anywhere from 3 to 5%. So anytime you see a poll, give Trump 3 to 5%, and that's where things are truly at.
Carolina, Trump still has the edge, 49% to 47%. An Emerson poll also finds Trump tops Harris in Arizona, but the candidates are tied in Pennsylvania, Kelly. And so, first question, did last night move the needle? Do you feel like, in fact, he got more votes for the Trump ticket? And what do you think of these polls so tight?
So first of all, if those polls held and today was election day, Donald Trump would win. That means the underlying fundamentals benefit him. I would have thought that Kamala Harris would be doing better in the Sunbelt states, higher minority populations. She's actually fighting for Wisconsin, Michigan, most of all, and then tag on Pennsylvania. If Donald Trump wins Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, Marie, he's the next president.
Yeah.
And it's trending that way. Why? And remember, when he picked J.D., a reporter asked him, what's your plan for J.D. Vance on the trail? Quote, I think I'll park him in Pennsylvania. So obviously J.D. Vance has gone many other places and spaces, but that is an important point to reflect on now, months later, that J.D. Vance from Ohio does have a certain pull in Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania is tough for Kamala Harris, the Catholic vote. She's not Scranton Joe. The Teamsters did not endorse her, et cetera. And what President Trump said to me in an hour-long interview 2 short days ago, Maria, is advisable. He feels that when he goes to these places, he had just been in Erie County, he's going to go back. He's doing that 2016 election schedule again, where it's the 22 counties, the 160,000 truly undecided voters. I think J.D. Vance is going to help that ticket win now because people are going to say the first choice Kamala Harris and Donald Trump made was their running mates. I prefer Vance over Walz.
Let me tell you this, y'all, that if there's anything that I really want people to see right now is 2 things. One is this right here. These types of things get pushed out all the time. You know, when a valid ID is required, boarding a plane, getting a prescription, applying for a job, cashing a check, food stamps, driving, getting married, adopting a pet, buying alcohol, but not for voting. For the most important election, for the leaders of the free world, it's not required. And I do believe that Trump is winning in the polls, but what I don't think that they're accounting for is the illegal, those that say have amnesty that are going to try to vote. Because again, if you're not allowed to check if they are a citizen, then how do you ever know if those that are voting are not citizens? And that's the bad part. That's the part that I keep thinking about every single day. They actually pulled up this thing too. This is from 2020. This was in June of 2020. Said Kamala Harris said either the Trump administration is angling for another disastrous war in the Middle East, or they've spent 2 years saber rattling against Iran with no strategy and no end game. This president is making America weaker and less safe. Really? But guess what? Iran didn't attack Israel or Hamas and all this stuff till who got into office? Biden and Harris. And now these new studies are coming out that we're trying to show what is happening behind the scenes, because this wasn't a fair debate. The numbers 100% are one-sided, and this is what people need to see. Check it out.
A study from the Media Research Center shows 89% of CBS's evening news coverage for Tim Walz was positive. 89% of the coverage for J.D. Vance was negative. MRC President Brent Bozell with us this morning. Okay, do you think the CBS moderators treated both sides fairly last night, Brent?
This is so one-sided.
Shocker, they didn't. There's your headlines. No, we looked at it. It's just a different kind of way they did it. Last night, they announced to great pomp and circumstances that there was going to be no fact-checking. There was fact-checking all night long. Let's start here. where did the questions come from? In which directions did the questions come from? How many questions were from the left-wing perspective, which is to say liberals wanted those questions asked? How many from the right-wing perspective? Answer, left-wing, 19, right-wing, 2.
Wow.
A 10-to-1 disparity over the questions. That really should tell you everything you need to know. But here's the second one, challenging questions. I've got nothing wrong with challenging questions. I like challenging questions. J.D. Vance got 15 challenging questions. Great. Walz got 7, only half as many as he did. But this one's the big one. The follow-up questions that were asked. A follow-up is a form of fact-checking. I say something, you respond, and I come back and I say, no, wait a minute, how about this? That's a fact check I've done on you. The fact that the follow-up questions, Walz had 2 follow-up questions. J.D. Vance had 10.
Yeah.
10-2 disparity.
Wow.
What they were
hold
doing
up,
was
hold up. This stuff still blows my mind. So there was 19 questions that were geared towards the left and only 2 towards the right. Tim Walz was only fact-checked or followed up twice. J.D. Vance was 10. This is the type of crap that I hate because it's so unfair.
They were doing it the whole time, all night long. It was softballs to Walz, more or less, and hardballs, more or less, to Vance. Once again.
One more for you. Last time Trump was on 60 Minutes, they tried to accuse him of spreading misinformation about Hunter Biden. Watch this.
It's a very important issue to find out whether or not a man's corrupt who's running for president, who's accepted money from China and from Ukraine and from Russia. Take a look at what's going on, Leslie, and then you say how that shouldn't be discussed. I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it. You want to talk about?
Well, because it can't be verified.
You want to talk about insignificant things.
I'm telling you.
Of course it can be verified. Excuse me, they found the laptop. Leslie.
Can't be verified.
Trump wants to back out of his 60-minute interview now unless he gets an apology. Is that the right move for Trump, Brent?
Yeah, and I don't know if I heard it on that soundbite. She also said that those allegations had been investigated and dismissed.
Correct.
No, she does owe him an apology.
100%.
And he should not agree to do anything on CBS, especially when they announce that they're going to live fact-check him, which means they will they'll do an edited, taped show with him, and then live they'll say, and he's a liar, and he's a liar, and he's a liar, and he's a liar, and he'll have no opportunity to defend himself. Now, he should never get anywhere near, apology or not, he should have nothing to do with them.
Well said. Brent Bozell.
I really love what Dan Bongino said, that moving forward, no debates on any news station. Forget that crap. I don't care if it's Fox 2. I don't care if it's Newsmax. There needs to be a just open stage forum at the White House. I don't care. And bring somebody from the right and bring somebody from the left. Bring whoever, Rachel Maddow, and bring Hannity. And then they each go back and forth on asking questions. That way, we know it's fair. Because them going to a news station, all you're doing is feeding one side's narrative. And it's always been on what? Look, Kamala Harris was invited to go to do a debate on Fox, and she didn't show up. But yet now she wants to do debate, but make sure it's on CNN or ABC. When it's like, no, why would I go do a debate when I've already essentially lost to the moderators because they're not going to be fair in the first place? We're living in crazy times. This is presidential election year. We're less than 40 days out from the election. But just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so I can serve you every day with the top news. And just thank you so much, everybody, for all your support, all the super chats, all the new members of the True Life family. Remember, the link is in the description to join. It's less than $1 per month, and we're using that money to give back to people that really need it, to kids that really need it. We've already did a video. It's on the channel. You can go see it. We gave back to the Isaiah 117 house, and we're going to keep giving back more every single month. We want to thank Prophetic Now, Woodbury Hill Studio, Mr. Tracy J. Norby, Jose Umana for joining and supporting the channel. We love y'all so much, and thank you for all your support. Y'all are family. Let's go. And if there's anything I always do is I take care of my family. So I'm going to take care of y'all every single day with the top news. We love you. We thank you. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.